Okay, Sairam to all of you. Anurag, Deepanshi, Harshi,
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Manvi,
Sairab, ma'am.
Sairam, Sharat, Sairam,
Ma'am.
Shrestha Sairam,
Saram ma'am.
Deepanshi Sairam,
Sairam ma'am.
Anurag, why you are not responding? Okay,
Saira, ma'am.
Sairam, Sairam. Okay, so we were discussing about human capital formation. See, you have 80 marks question, total is 80. Of that, 80 comes from microeconomics and 80 out of economic development. So you may feel this Indian economic development textbook very easy. It may you may be like have such a feeling it is very easy and you will do it. But in macroeconomics, all the fundamental elements are given. It is more concepts based. Here it is more theory based. Even though that is concepts based, that is more important concepts you study in it. And here you study only theory and it's a history like thing you are studying here. The weightage is same in both the textbook. This textbook have 40 marks weightage and the other textbook also have 40 mark weightage. So I'm saying this because you have to give equal importance to this textbook also. You may feel okay ये तो पढ़ लूंगा, okay ये तो पढ़ लूंगी कि मतलब theory है, okay, but you have to understand it, otherwise marks में जो है फर्क आएगा, ठीक है। और उसमें जो है कि if you make like work, it is easy to score. Okay, so don't think that it is easy and we will do it at the last moment. Last moment study will not help you. You have to first conceptually understand the thing, then you have to go ahead. So we were discussing about human capital formation. Under that, you have discussed what is human capital and what is physical capital. You have discussed and the difference between human capital and physical capital. How human capital formation can be done, that you have studied human capital formation, how it is done, importance of human capital, that also we have done, importance of human capital formation. Then problems of human capital formation you have studied, sources of human capital formation you have studied, and the relationship between human capital and economic growth, that also you have seen. And yesterday you have seen the two terms human capital and human development. That was the last portion, last topic you have seen. So yesterday you have seen the difference between human capital and human development. What's the difference between human capital and human development, Shrestha? Can you say? Human capital and human development, what is the difference between the two? Any one difference? The difference between human capital and human development. Can anyone say? Anyone give me the answer?
Ma'am, human capital is for ma'am. Human capital is ma'am for the economic development, and human development is for the welfare of the society.
Yes, exactly. Human capital formation is intended to increase the productivity and the products. For increasing the productivity, and human development is for the welfare of human beings. Okay, so today we will see another concept So you have seen human capital, almost all the concepts you have seen, sources of human capital, problems of human capital, why it is necessary, and the difference between human capital and human development, all the things you have seen. Now you will see what is a human capital formation in India particularly. Human capital formation in India. So,
Ma'am, one doubt.
yes.
Ma'am, does human capital also include unskilled laborers for which work at factory?
Can you repeat?
Ma'am, does human capital also include that unskilled laborers who work at factory?
See, when they get the skill, expertise, ability to do it efficiently, they will change into human resources. When they don't have the skill, ability, expertise, education, then they are normal human being. They are converted into human resources by our investment. If they don't have received anything, they don't have enhanced their skill, they have not undergone any education, so we cannot call them as the human capital or the human resources. There is no development at all in them. Once they undergo the process of all these things like their skill, they have enhanced their skill, they have knowledge, they have better social standing in the society, all this they have attained, then they will become human resources. When they are developed, improved. Okay, Priyanshu.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, now we will see human capital formation in India. So in somewhere I have mentioned you when we were going through the reports of Deutsche Bank and World Bank. The World Bank has said India has a knowledge economy. Knowledge economy means we have skilled people, and if we invest more in the education and health of the people, we can come out and we can become the major centers of the economy. So World Bank and Deutsche Bank, both of them have opined like that. Their opinion is like that. So now we will see what is the human capital formation in India. So human capital formation, what is the human capital formation? Human capital formation is the outcome of investment in education, in health, in on-the-job training, in migration, in the information and all. So human capital formation, when the human being become the resources and human capital formation is made, when we make investment in education, health, on the job training, migration, information and all these things, they become the resources and human capital formation is being done. Out of all these elements, education and health, two things are very important. You know, on the job training is there, migration expenditure is there, information expenditure is there. But the two very important things are investment in education and investment in health. These two are the very important things. And in India, we know we are ours is a federal country. Federal country with a union government. What do you mean by federal country? It is rules like a different layers, like a union government, state government, and local government. We have a three-layer system. So we have a federal country with a union government at the top, then comes the state government, then comes the local self-government like municipal corporation, municipality, village panchayat, and all. So we have a federal system in India. So the Constitution of India mentioned the functions to be carried out by each level of government. ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बताया गया है what is the functions to be carried out at each level. ये वाला ये सब फील्ड में एजुकेशन हेल्थ ये सब फील्ड में मेनली एजुकेशन एंड हेल्थ इज मेंशन. यूनियन गवर्नमेंट का क्या रोल है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का क्या रोल है, local self-government क्या रोल है. So the Constitution of India itself mentions the functions to be carried out by each level of government. Okay, so accordingly, the expenditures on both education and health are to be carried out simultaneously by the union government or by the three state government or the local self-government. So according to the Constitution of India, everything is well planned and everything is written. What to be carried out by the union government, what is the responsibility of the state government, what is the responsibility of the local government. All these are decided. So on the basis of that, expenditures on education and health is being made by these three tiers of the government. Called you have three tiers of the government like union, state, and local government. So expenditure is done at three levels or by all the three tiers of the government. So education and healthcare service create, both private and social benefit. There are education institutions, private education institutions are there, and government institutions are there. In the case of medical health means health facility also, we have private institutions and government institutions. So education and healthcare services create both private and social benefit. So as we have institution of government and the private institution, we have private benefit and social benefit. Private benefit का मतलब क्या है? जो private institution, it benefit them who is undertaking that particular service, that is education or service. Social benefit, it is for all. Private benefit means who is conducting it. So education and healthcare services create both private and social benefit. So private and public institutions exist in India in the health and education system. Education and health service market, we call it. So in the education and health service market, both private and public institutions are there. So that is what you have to, as a preface to human capital formation in India, you have to remember some key points like main thing is education and health. Those two things are being dealt importantly. Then, as India is a federal structure, we are of a federal country. Union government, state government, and local self-government are in charge of these education and health. And the Constitution of India mentions what functions are to be carried out by the union government, state government, and local government. So it should be carried in such way. So that is why it is planned in India, human capital formation. Okay, so the expenditures on both health and education should be carried out by these three categories, by the three tiers of the government. The expenditures are to be carried out by the union government, state government, and local government according to the Constitution. And in India, both private and social benefit, that means both private and public institutions exist in this field. In this field means in the education and health service market, both public and private institutions are there. So that is what we have to say about the human capital formation in India. तो कौन-कौन सा point है as we are federal country? तीन structure में है. So that is the responsibility of these three. Okay, Constitution में mention है what are the functions to be carried out by union, state, and the local government. So expenditures have to be shared or expenditure is done by all these three levels. And in India, in health and education, both public and private institutions are taking part. So that is, about the human capital formation in India. So, is it clear to you? Is this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we will see our next topic, need for government intervention. Why there is need for government intervention? अभी मैं हमने बोला education and health में who all are playing? Public institution and private institution, both are there to give health and education. So why there is a need for government intervention? The expenditures on education and health is very important. It is greatly important. These two factors are very important because what is the end? Human beings, we deal with the human beings, both in education and health. We are dealing with a human being. So it is very important. Such expenditure should provide positive result. positive or favorable result we should get. So it's a very crucial issue. It's a very important issue because we are dealing with the human being. In education and health, assume greater information, greater importance, because we are dealing with the human capital. We are making expenditure in the human being. So it is very important because we have to get positive result. The expenditure on education and health makes substantial long-term impact. That means, suppose you are educated in a particular school for 10 years. After passing out, you feel that, I mean, what education I got is not good. It is not up to the mark. So you have spent the, useful 10 years there. You cannot reverse it. You cannot reverse your time. You cannot reverse it. The time spent is spent. Okay, so if a child is admitted in a school, just like that in a hospital, you are admitted. If you are not getting the actual or service from there, the required service from there, so it is a health issue. So what is lost? If the life lost is lost, the health lost is lost, and the time lost in education is lost. After coming out from an institution after 12 years, you feel that that institution was not up to the mark. So that it cannot be reversed. So it assumes more importance. That means the expenditure in education and health is very important because its impact is long-term impact it has. 1 से 12 तक जहाँ आप जो education किया ना उसको impact you don't realize now. It has a long-term impact in your future. Whatever time you have spent in the school, 12 years, that has a long-term impact in the school. So the quality of education is very important. The expenditure on education and the expenditure of health, that is substantially important because it gives a long-term impact. And we cannot reverse it. अभी फिर से एक फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड में शुरू कर सकते हैं क्या? No. Or if you are admitted in a hospital, that particular time, if you are, by mistake, wrong treatment is given, you cannot reverse it. So if a child is admitted to a school or in a healthcare center, in a hospital, required service is not provided by such an institute, there's a great damage. The damage is huge, substantial, huge amount of damage to your life. Isn't it? Because you cannot reverse it. So therefore, so damage is, that means the loss is big or small. The loss is huge. Okay? Therefore, it is important. What is important? Need for government intervention is important. Now, I just said all these things. You just understand the importance of education and healthcare center. The quality of education institution and the quality of education center, it is very important. So I have explained all these things to, make you understand the quality of educational institution and the quality of healthcare center is very important because you cannot reverse all these things because it has a long-term impact on your future, on your health. So the individual consumers of these services do not have complete information about the quality of service and even about their cost. Before joining a school, and you will understand the quality only after many years. You will understand the quality of healthcare service what you got only after the treatment. So individual consumers of the service do not have complete information about the quality provided by a particular educational institution or the quality provided by a particular hospital or healthcare center. Individuals have not that much idea about it. So to providers of education and health services, they will acquire monopoly power and they can exploit the common people. Such things should not happen. So providers of education like educational institute, They in a way to attract more number of students, they will attract more number of students for the admission and health service institutions and all. After that, they will acquire a monopoly. After acquiring a monopoly, they can charge, they can increase their cost also. Cost of services can be increased, and they will exploit the general public if it is given to the private hand. It's given to the private hand, but there should be some sort of control by the government. Otherwise, what will happen? They may mean this private institution may acquire a monopoly power, and they will do exploitation. They will exploit the general public. So the role of government is very important to ensure that this private institution or the private providers of the services, whoever providing the services, is standard. Whatever service they are giving, so standards stipulated by the government is being followed. So government gives some standards of performance. That is why for every CBSE school, there is the CBSE guidelines are to be followed. Whatever CBSE guidelines are there, that is to be strictly followed in schools. And the case of hospitals also, government standards are to be followed. And it is said that even at the charge, the price they charge, that is under the control of the government. That should be under the control of the government. So that is why it is said that there is a need of government intervention in the field of human capital formation, because under human capital formation, we take into consideration two important things, that is education and health, which have a long-term impact on the life of people and which cannot be reversed. Okay, so there should be some control over these institutes, some standards should be stipulated by the government for the quality of the service and also the price they charge. So that is what you have to study under need for government intervention. So you think there should be a need or not? There should be a need of intervention or not? What do you think? Huh? Karthik? Karthik, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think? What's your opinion? There should be a intervention from the part of the government or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Intervention should be there?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Ma'am,
why there should be an intervention?
Ma'am, for activities under the guidelines of the all work should be done, ma'am. That's why.
So there should be some control, because otherwise they will exploit. They will not give you quality service, plus they will exploit you by charging exorbitant prices. So there should be a control by the government, interference by the government. Okay? Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So now, in order to control how the government will interfere, in education, you know, there is NCERT, UGC, AICTE. I think you might have heard all these terms. Okay, there is NCERT. What is NCERT? National Council for Education, Research and Training. What is UGC? University Grant Commission. What is AICTE? All India Council of Technical Education. So these three institutions are there as a regulatory authority in education. So the question can be, what is the need for government intervention? Or otherwise, the question can be, how do the government intervene in health and education? How do the government intervene? How do the government intervene? You just write the regulatory authority in education, NCERT, UGC and AICTE regulate the education sector by providing the guidelines, standard, how they have to function. So this way in education, the regulation is being done, interference is being done. What about health? In health, the ministers of health of the union and state level. We have ministers of health in the union level and state level. Then we have the health department. Okay, we have the health department in every state department of health, and various organizations are there, like Indian Council for Medical Research, Indian Council for Medical Research, ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research. These councils, they give the necessary guidelines, standards they have to follow and interfere or regulate the health sector. So in health sector, what we have? We have the ministries of health, the union level, at the state level, the health department is there, and various organizations are there, like Indian Council for Medical Research, that is ICMR, to regulate the health sector. So that is how the government regulate education sector and health sector. Okay? Is it clear? Anshita?
Yes, ma'am.
Ishansh? Manvi?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this much clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So what we have seen in this case, human capital formation of India, how it is done. As India is a federal government, how it is being done in the constitution, what is being mentioned, and it is private and public, all these things we have done, human capital formation, how it is done, and what is the need for government interference, that also you have seen need for government interference. Then after that, what you have seen? You have also seen how does the government control? In the form of which organization they control. How does the government control the education sector and health sector? In this case, you remember the name of the institutions also. Okay? Let me call one by one now. Aditya? Aditya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear? Whatever I have told you now, is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
What about Anshita?
Yes, ma'am.
Anurag?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now we will see basic education and healthcare. Basic education and healthcare, it's a fundamental right of every citizen. You know, we had it mentioned about this somewhere. It became a fundamental right according to which concept, who is going to answer? Under which concept it became? Education and healthcare became, and what should I say? A fundamental right of every citizen. Do you remember? We have studied it in the previous.
Human development.
Very good. Very good. Human development. Under that concept, according to that concept, it has become the basic education and healthcare became the fundamental right of every citizen. So next we will study basic education and healthcare, fundamental right of every citizen. How? In a developing country like India, you know India is a developing country. A large section of people are poor, below the poverty line. They are not able to afford for education and healthcare facilities. So that's the need. How it is why it is needed? Basic education and healthcare, fundamental right of every citizen. क्यों बनाना? Especially in a developing country like India, most of the people below poverty line, they cannot afford for basic education and even health, because we are talking about education and health to be fundamental right. Then a major section of our people cannot afford to main super specialty hospital and higher education, big schools and all, because we are under the major portion of the people, major portion of the population are poor, below the poverty line. So they cannot afford to reach a super specialty hospital or a very good high education center and all. So the basic education and healthcare is to be considered as the right of the citizen, and it should be made essential that the government should provide education and health service free of cost for the deserving citizen who are from the lower classes, that means below the poverty line, and we call it socially oppressed classes who cannot afford it. Okay, so basic education and healthcare, how it is to be made as a fundamental right to every citizen, because especially in a country like India, most of the people are below the poverty line. They cannot afford for super specialty hospitals and high quality or higher education centers which charge high fees. So it is essential, it is not important, it is essential that the government should provide education and health service free of cost to those people. That means for the deserving citizens who cannot afford for such things. Okay, so our union government and state government do the expenditure in the education sector for different years. You can see in the budget and all how much this much is provided for health and this much is provided for education. So we have to fulfill the objective of attaining 100% literacy. A 100% literacy is our, that is our aim, 100% literacy and health facilities for all. So for this, so we will then the union government and state government give a part of their of the budget, a portion, a part of the amount, the total amount for what purpose? Education purpose and health purpose, because it is the fundamental right of every citizen. Okay, basic education and health care. Only that much you have to see under basic education and health care. Why it is needed? Why it is to be taken as a fundamental right of every citizen? Is it a fundamental right? Yes. It is a fundamental right. That's why the union government and state government is providing free of cost. There are, institutions which provide free service in education and health, because it's a fundamental right. So more about the education sector in India. Educational sector in India. We have to study particularly educational sector in India. Now we were studying about both education and health. So particularly when we talk about the educational sector in India, how the expenditure is done in education. The expenditure is done as a percentage of the total government expenditure and as a percentage of gross domestic product. GDP का इतना percentage education के लिए ऐसे भी होता है. Otherwise, total government expenditure का इतना percentage education के लिए. So, the expenditure by the government on education is expressed in two ways. What are the two ways? In two ways, the expenditure is being done. The first is total government expenditure का इतना percentage. That means as a percentage of total government expenditure, or otherwise as a percentage of gross domestic product, that is GDP. Okay, so two kind of giving the expenditure as a percentage of total government expenditure and as a percentage of GDP. Okay, so government expenditure, if you want to study more in detail about the government expenditure, what is the kind of government expenditure, which in what manner it is being done? Government spends more in elementary education. So हमने और कहीं पढ़ा है कि higher education में ज़्यादा देते हैं. तो such kind of contradictory things you may see in the textbook. Okay, उस particular point को ये करने के लिए, proof करने के लिए the points are being given. Somewhere you have seen more amount is spent on higher education rather than in primary and secondary education. And here it is said that government expenditure is done more in elementary education. What is elementary education? Primary and middle school. So what are the important points of government expenditure that we are studying? Government expenditure on education कैसे होता है India? We are spending more on elementary education, that is primary and middle school. Take a major share of the total education expenditure. And for the higher or tertiary education, it is less. Tertiary education माने क्या है? Not the, understand the word tertiary education means यूनिवर्सिटी हो गया, कॉलेज हो गया, vocational education हो गया, all this after the schooling, whatever you do, that higher education is known as tertiary education. So share of higher or tertiary education is less. जितना चाहिए उतना नहीं दे रहे. So there is government expenditure में वो नहीं मिल रहा है. That is one thing. Then expenditure on tertiary education is important. Do you think expenditure on tertiary education is important?
Yes, ma'am.
Expenditure on tertiary education is important because government spend, now we said government spend less on tertiary education. That means expenditure per student in tertiary education is higher than that of elementary education. जब higher education में आता है ना, ज़्यादा पैसा खर्च होती है क्योंकि practicals के लिए equipments चाहिए, vocation के लिए that kind of professional skills they need. I mean, for the teachers and all, they need more government expenditure is needed. So, however, expenditure per, even though elementary education we are spending more, expenditure per student in tertiary education is higher than the elementary education. Okay, that doesn't mean we will not spend on tertiary or tertiary education. Tertiary education is also important, like elementary education. So as we expand school education, we need more teachers who are trained in the higher education institutions also. After schooling, they have to be spent for tertiary education. So tertiary education should also be made important. Okay, so we are actually, it is given in the book like important points about government expenditure, the kind of government expenditure should be made or how it is being made. Okay. Then difference in educational opportunities across the state. So if you see across the state also, it is not uniform. Across the state, the educational opportunities are not uniform. It may be high in Himachal Pradesh, but it is low in Bihar. It may be high in South Indian state, it may be low in some other states. Okay, so there is some data given in the textbook. In 2014-15, the per capita education expenditures differs considerably across the state. The high 34,651 in Himachal Pradesh and 4,088 in Bihar. That means the state disparity. Okay, difference in education opportunities across the state is being shown. So that should not happen. That is their part. So spent more in elementary education is being done. Expenditure on tertiary education is important. We have to do more. And in different state, opportunities across the state is differ. There is no uniformity. Difference in the educational facility given in different state. Okay, so totally you can say there is inadequate expenditure on education. There is inadequate expenditure on education. More than 14 years ago, Education Commission has recommended GDP ka 6%, not 60%. 6% should be kept apart for education. However, currently we are spending 4% or 3% of GDP only for education. So more than 14 years ago, what was the suggestion? Recommended by Education Commission, GDP ka 6% should be kept apart for education. But we have kept apart only 4 or recently 3 for the GDP for education. So the expenditure on education is very less as compared to the desired level. Okay, the expenditure recommended by various commission is more, but what we are spending is less. So that is inadequate expenditure we are making on education. So there should be provision for free and compulsory education. There should be provision for what? Free and compulsory education. According to the Tapas Majumdar Committee, the Tapas Majumdar Committee appointed by Indian government in 1998, it has estimated the expenditure around 1.37 lakhs crore over 10 years to bring all Indian children in the age group of 6 to 14 under the purview of school education. You may get all these statistics or all these amounts and all in the textbook. That is important. Okay, so this Tapas Majumdar committee appointed by the Indian government in 1998, it has estimated how much expenditure should be there. 1.37 lakhs crore over 10 years to bring all children under 6 to 14 years in school is required. That is the suggestion of Tapas Majumdar committee. But we will see what is the actuality. In 2009, the government of India enacted the Right of Education Act to make free education a fundamental right to all children under 6 to 14 group. 2009 में क्या बनाया गया? It has become the fundamental right. What has become? Education became the fundamental right of all children in the group of 6 to 14. Then, Government of India has also started levying education cess. Education cess, that is levying a tax, a form of tax. Over the other tax, education cess or tax levy करना शुरू कर दिया, and that tax will be earmarked for spending on elementary education. So that particular tax, 2% education cess it is called, that will be used for spending on elementary education. So tax levy करके that will be spending on elementary education. Okay, so that amount is there. Or over this amount, in addition to this amount, government has spent more amount for the promotion of huge amount outlay, large amount outlay for the promotion of higher education. Then with a new loan scheme for students to pursue higher education, there is a loan scheme of the government. All these are initiated by the government. So provision for free and compulsory education. So in that case, you just remember the name of a committee, that the Tapas Majumdar committee. Okay, that was initiated by the Indian government in 1998. That you have to keep in mind. And in 2009, Government of India enacted the Right to Education Act. To free education is a fundamental right. In 2009, it became the fundamental right to all children age group 6 to 14. और कितना education cess लेता है Government of India? 2%. 2% education cess लेता है. ये education cess, this particular amount is being spent for elementary education only. Okay, so not only that amount, instead of this amount, in addition to this amount, there is government sanction large amount for the promotion of higher education also. For higher education, and new loan scheme is also there. So all this the government has done. Okay, because we are now dealing with education sector in India. India में क्या क्या हुआ वो सब हमने अभी पढ़ा है. ठीक है? Okay, are you here with me?
Yes, ma'am.
I will just show you a particular table, then I will wind up the class. उस table में देखने से आपको पता चलेगा what is the position. Please look at the table. I think it is 1 minute. नहीं है क्या? Yes. Can you see the table?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see there is educational achievement in India is given in the tabular form. I'm asking, my question is to all. Can you see the table?
Yes, ma'am.
See.
Yes, ma'am.
Adult literacy rate. Adult literacy rate 1990 में 61.9 male and female adult literacy rate. Male, female. Male 61.9, female 37.9. See कितना फर्क है. 2000 में adult literacy rate male 68.4, female 45.4. Then in 2015 it has enhanced, improvement है. Male का literacy rate 81 है, female का literacy rate 63 है. So education attainment in India हम दिखा रहे हैं 90s, 2000 and in 2015. ठीक है? And if you go for the latest details, you can again compare the difference between 15 and 19. Then primary completion rate. किसने कितने बच्चों ने मेल और फीमेल में प्राइमरी कंप्लीट किया? 78% in 90, 85 in 2000 and 94 in 2015. Because 2009 में हमने इसको फंडामेंटल राइट बना दिया था. ओके, फ्री एंड कंपल्सरी एजुकेशन। अभी फीमेल में कितने लोग प्राइमरी एजुकेशन किया? 61, 69 एंड 99। सी यहाँ पर फीमेल ज्यादा है प्राइमरी एजुकेशन में, मेल से ज्यादा है फीमेल। ठीक है, अभी यूथ लिटरेसी रेट, परसेंटेज ऑफ पीपल एज 15 to 24 के बीच में हायर एजुकेशन में जो मेल एंड फीमेल जाता है, एज बिटवीन 15 to 24 हायर एजुकेशन के लिए, मेल 76.6, फीमेल 54.2, here 2000 में 79.7, 64.8, 92 and 87. So this is the data, this is the statistics of the educational attainment in India. Okay, so आपको टेक्स्ट में देखने के लिए मिलेगा, ये सब एक्सप्लेन करके वहां लिखा है। जैसे कि अडल्ट लिटरेसी 1990 में इतना था, 2000 में 68.4 हो गया, 2015 में इतना हो गया, उसको एक्सप्लेन करके टेक्स्ट में दिया होगा। दैट इज द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर टेबल, इसको इंटरप्रेट करके बुक में लिखा है। ओके, सो दैट्स ऑल। Okay, that's all. So next coming portion we can see in the next